Hi, everybody. Welcome to Iredell-Statesville Schools EDtalks. Our guest today is Brie Beane, who is the Director of Innovation, Intervention, and Improvement in the Iredell-Statesville Schools. And one of the big projects that she runs for us is called MTSS. And we're going to talk about that today. Brie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Well, MTSS is a buzzword that everybody hears about. So what do those letters even stand for?
MTSS actually stands for the Multi-Tiered System of Support. And it has kind of transformed from the original RTI acronym, which stood for Responsiveness to Instruction. So it actually takes the academic side and now also adds in the behavior side of the triangle so that we can look at the entire child from start to finish and really looking at what they need and how we're best instructing them.
So to a layman, what we're trying to accomplish with this MTSS model is making sure that behavior does not stop a child from learning.
Absolutely. Behavior and academics are almost always directly related. It's very rare to see them individually functioning. Typically, you'll see a student whose behaviors will heighten and start coming out when they're struggling academically because they don't typically say, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I can't do that. So a lot of times you'll see behaviors increase as they struggle academically, or once they start struggling a lot academically, then down the road their behaviors start to manifest a little bit more as they get older and older. So that's something that we want to make sure that we look at right off the bat when we're looking at data on students and seeing how we're best instructing them and are we really meeting their needs.
Right. This is a statewide initiative in North Carolina.
It is. MTSS is actually a national movement, but North Carolina has taken a very forward approach and is kind of ahead of the national movement and really saying we need to look at our kids and make sure that we know exactly where they are, seeing what types of gaps they have, and making sure that we're providing the instruction they need to not only close those gaps if they have them, but also if they're on grade level and above grade level, continue to show the growth that they can that they are making on a day-to-day basis, and continue to educate the children and see that growth on a daily basis.
Right. Now, as a classroom teacher, let's pick any grade. Let's say fourth grade.
Okay.
This is really changing the way that teachers approach their work and work together collaboratively as a team. Talk to us a little bit about what that looks like on the ground in a typical elementary school, fourth grade kids.
It is game changing. And honestly, it has been a culture shift within the schools. The teams were already meeting, especially in Iredell-Statesville schools, in professional learning communities on a weekly basis. They would meet together as a team, discuss their students, discuss their instruction, and made really good instructional decisions. But we've learned a lot more than we used to know. We have very accurate, appropriate data on our students to say, how are they doing? Not only on grade level, but by skill as well. When we do our universal screenings to say, skill by skill, are they able to read on grade level? Not only do they know this content that I'm teaching them. So the academic shift and the shift in the conversation in those PLCs has completely transformed to really talk about our children as a whole team. So if you were looking at the fourth grade teachers getting together in their professional learning communities, they now sit there with data in front of them. They talk to each other about every single student that they're serving, where they currently are based on multiple data points, and how they're going to change and modify their instruction to meet the needs of those students, regardless of where they are, whether they're performing below grade level, on grade level, or above grade level. And really looking at that problem-solving model for every single child so nobody can slip through the cracks. So it is a huge culture shift, and the conversation has changed drastically at the table, and they're not afraid to share their strengths and weaknesses as teachers anymore. They can say, okay, so you're doing really well with this group of students. My data is showing that these students are struggling. What are you doing for them that I can also try for the same skill deficit that these children may have, so that I can see the same growth potentially? So it really becomes a problem-solving team that is functioning on levels that have never happened before.
Right. Absolutely. And I walk into some of those PLCs occasionally, and I hear them talking about their kids, and, they identify a child that's got a gap, and so the whole team then focuses in on that conversation about that child.
Absolutely.
Then they start looking at strengths of teachers and saying, well, you've tried with this child, maybe I should take a chance on that child and see if I could shore up that weakness.
Absolutely. And they're actually all the way down to kindergarten sharing students now.
Yeah.
So they're basing it not only on the students' strengths and gaps, but also on the teachers' strengths and their weaknesses.
Right.
So it's really about how do we modify and problem solve the instruction that we're giving, not the children that we're given.
Right.
It's very much about what do we do on our part as the adults to make sure that the little people in the building are getting what they need.
Yes, a much more scientific approach to
Much more
working with
effective approach too. We've seen amazing gains within our students, the strengths and the growth that we've seen.
Right.
Especially in some of our lowest performing schools.
What are some of the things that is important for parents to understand about MTSS?
Parents need to know that we are looking at their children as wholly as possible. We are looking at every single aspect of each individual child and trying to provide exactly what we see that they need. But the parents are instrumental in this. They need to know that if a teacher is contacting them regarding the fact that their child is struggling in an area and they want to meet with the parent in order to help increase the ability to reach that child where that child is and see that growth to get them up to grade level or provide the necessary supports that they need, it's really imperative to be part of that problem-solving team. The parent is so instrumental. That's their child. They know him better than anybody.
Right.
So it's really important to know that with MTSS, it's really about a problem-solving team. It's a process. It's not a program. It's not a magic bullet that is going to be implemented that's going to solve everything. It's really about coming around the table and everybody who works with and knows that child best, and the parent is the number one person, to really look at how can we make sure that we are reaching this child and making sure that they are continuing to grow or close some of the gaps that they may have. Yeah,
to use kind of a medical analogy, I see it as, a patient goes into the hospital and then there is a team of people that sit down and they have different expertise and whatnot, but it's that team approach to ministering to the needs of that patient, or in our case, that team is looking at the needs of an individual student.
You couldn't have said it better, to be honest with you, because it really is. The child may be really successful for one person and struggling for another. So to sit around the table as a team of adults going, okay, where is this child? What do you see their strengths as? Where do you see their weaknesses as? And how do we together come up with a good, detailed diagnosis, or even just a prescriptive something to really help them get what they need, the support level that they need. And it is just like a medical team. It's what are we seeing, and where's my level of expertise for this child, and how do we put it all on the table so that we can look at the child as a whole child.
Now I hear about the triangle and the colors.
Yes.
Explain that to us real quickly.
Okay, so there are 3 tiers to the triangle, and when we're looking at the responsiveness to instruction on the academic side, and then the responsiveness to the behavior on the other side, and the overall umbrella is the multi-tier system of supports. The foundation of that, the largest tier of that, is the tier 1, which is green. And that's the differentiated core instruction. That's grade level content, the core instruction that the teachers are going to be teaching. And the teachers get together at the very beginning of the year, and for the 4 main areas of concern, which would be literacy, which is anything that has to do with reading, writing, understanding what you're reading and writing, your math, your writing separately as well, because there's written expression that is separate from just writing, and then behavior. And they get together, the team does, and it's the largest component of that triangle because it's the foundation of what they're doing on a daily basis, and it's the majority of the students' day. So they come together as a team and say, at this level, at this tier 1 level, that green bottom part of the triangle, what are we going to do to make sure that all children can access what we're teaching them, regardless of where they are in their ability. Then the second layer is the yellow part. It's a little bit smaller. About 80% of your population, you want to be functioning pretty well at that
Right.
tier 1 layer, that green tier 1. That yellow layer is tier 2. That's really where we provide targeted strategic interventions and strategies to close the students' gaps that they may have. And that's about 15% of the population you look at there. Then there's the top part of the triangle. It's the smallest part. It's red. And it's red because it's the intensive layer of the triangle. The students that are struggling drastically, that need something at a very intense level, so 4 to 5 days a week, in addition to their strategic targeted interventions at tier 2, as well as their core instruction. So they're getting multiple layers of support all the way up the triangle, and that top layer is about 5% of the population is what you want to see there.
Right.
So the teachers and the teams at every grade level, every school, they're looking at where are our children falling when they come into us, and how do we make sure that we provide the right instruction and the correct layers of instruction in order to get them functioning at that tier 1 layer. That's where you want them. You want them to the tier 1 component. And some students function for most of their career at the tier 2, and that's fine. That's successful.
Right.
And if we know exactly where they function the best, then we can provide them exactly what they need all the way through their educational career in order to have them graduate successfully and move on to college and career ready.
Well, I tell you, it's really exciting to see this work taking place, particularly in Iredell-Statesville schools. And I do think we're a little ahead of the curve. And I love the approach because it's an all hands on deck approach, and just a commitment from a school to say no child's going to fail. We're going to find a solution to every child's gaps and help them be successful. So as you see the graduation rate continue to rise and the dropout rate goes down consistently year after year after year, it's approaches like this that are making that work possible.
100%.
Yeah. If a parent wanted to get more information about MTSS, where could they go to get information?
On the district website, there is a couple different places that they can actually go. Under the original I3 grant that we started about 5.5 years ago, there's a lot of information on MTSS, what it is, how it works, but also from their actual school site. The schools know, the administration, the principals, all are very well versed in the whole MTSS process, as well as the instructional facilitators. And on the district, as well as each individual school website, there is a place that they can go that shows them a link that says, this is who to contact if you have any questions or area information.
Right. Well, Brie, thank you for what you're doing. And this is really innovative work, and it's really making a difference for a lot of kids. And so I commend you for what you're doing. It's some of the best work we're doing in our school system for kids.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching, and I hope this just drives home the point that in the Iredell-Statesville schools, we do take each child seriously, and we want all of our children to maximize their potential. Thanks again for watching.